Hey folks, and welcome to the Pipnotic Symposium for the 30th of June 2019. I hope you're all having a lovely summer holiday no matter where you are. We're currently visiting Denmark, so we'll be here for about 5 weeks, and we're about five nights into it. So we're in Jutland at the moment visiting my mother and father-in-law, and my wife's brother, who's a really cool guy, so that's really nice. We don't get to hang out that much these days, being so far away, so it's really nice to be able to catch up and have a break from everything. It's funny, you live in a place for so many years. I've been in Denmark for 23 years or so, and all the things that you take for granted, you really notice when you move to a place like Indonesia, which is rather different. Stuff like, in Bali where we live, there's very limited rubbish collection infrastructure in place, and stuff that just kind of works behind the scenes that you don't even notice. It's pretty remarkable and something you really pay attention to. So it's really cool to see that. It's funny, like when you kind of move away and you get used to something that's very different, then you come back to where you were, and you have these realizations, and you really can see things in contrast. I think it's a fascinating experience. Okay, but today we're going to talk about trade management. Philip was asking about a trade that he took on the Australian dollar, American dollar. I'm just going to pause for 2 seconds and get the trade up. Okay. First of all, before we do anything, let's have a look at the trade and maybe how we may or may not have wanted to do things differently. So if we look, first of all, you want to look on the longest time frame possible that your platform has, which for MT4 and 5 is the monthly. And if you look here, you can see that price is entering these lows. We have a lower rejection, and this is located roughly around this monthly area of demand, which originates from this accumulation candle here, and it kind of extends all the way down here. This was established back in 2008-ish, and so this is kind of the first tests back into this area. So we can expect a lot of interest in buying once price comes back to these significant lows here. And you can see here that price kind of poked into it here. We had major rejection. What's that telling us? Well, that's telling us that we're seeing there's a lot of interest in buying. And if we have a look at the beginning of the buy zone, which is here, price poked into it here, and this was like another kind of test at the beginning of this buy zone. So what does that tell us? That means that we have a long-term bias to buy the Australian dollar, American dollar, simply because we're moving into these all-time lows. Okay, so we have a long bias. Okay, so now we go back to the other time frames, and you can see here on the daily, what do we have? Let's zoom in a little bit. You can see that price is kind of trying to push lower. If you have a look at this, there's probably divergence going on where we have prices moving lower, but the strength of the currencies, these two currencies, is probably changing. So we have prices moving lower, and we have the strength of the two currencies is changing. So we're probably going to see the Australian dollar picking up in strength in relation to the American dollar, which is a clue that price is going to find some support and attract some buyers, because this is a pretty attractive price, and then price is going to move higher. So I don't have the currency strength histogram on, but this is likely what we're seeing there. Okay, then we go to the 4 hour. We'll have a look. And this particular trade was a short. Okay, and so that's fine. You can trade counter trend, but you're going to have to manage the trade slightly different, because we know that the major flows are long for the time being. So let's have a look at this particular trade. And it was a short here, which was probably on this area of accumulation right here. So it's roughly around here. The target was here. And sorry, the stop was here, and the target is further up here. Okay, so here's a stop, here's the target, and here's the entry. And so price came down, and it pretty much visited the target. And in a situation like this, and I said this in the forum as well, if price gets this close, then it's as good as hitting the target. Then I'll simply close it out. And there was a moment where you could have spent some time looking at this. Let's have a look. And you can see, I mean, here we have this area of resistance. Price rallied, accumulated below the area. It went higher, and the target was just at the beginning of this buy zone here. Price came to the area here, established the area of the buy zone, and price came pretty close to it here. If we have a look at this price level, 69.41, and then we look at the lows of the test, which is here. Come on. Let's find it here. Where's that little crosshair thingy? There it is. So we'll find this one. And the low is 69.41.7. This is 69.41.5. So this is like 0. This is like, I mean, 0.2 of a pip away. So in my book, this is testing it. So if price did that, I would have closed it, because we've already had an attempt to attract buyers. That happened. You can see on this candle that we have big rejection, and so this is a telltale sign that that it's over. It's over. And normally you can expect a push lower to retest these lows, but we didn't get there. And so upon seeing this candle, I would have closed the trade out. If I was in front of the computer and I saw this, then I would have closed it out as well, because this is as good as testing the lows here. And it was essentially the spread that stopped this target from being hit, which is a bit of a shitter, but it happens all the time. The spread can kind of wind in at night or whatever. I don't know what time this trade was put in there. So you have to be a little bit cautious about that. You see here, price went up here. We found some, we didn't really find, I mean, there were no real strong moves away, but we did move away. Price went a little bit high, went to the high at the beginning of the sell zone, and this is where we saw a really big push lower, and then price managed to move back into this range just below this area of supply, which has now been consumed, which is also telling us that while this pocket of liquidity is gone, what does that mean? That means price is going to have an easy time moving higher. And so I would have clicked this out, and if you wanted to see if price was going to have another test at it, then maybe you could have moved your stop to break even. That may also have been a solution, I think. But the other thing to remember is you're going to lose trades as well. It's okay if you have a risk reward of 1 to 2 and you're losing 40% of your trades and you're still earning money, and so it doesn't really matter. So it's okay. You don't have to have like a perfect track record, 100% wins. I mean, it doesn't happen. It really it doesn't happen. It's not possible to happen all the time. At some point you will start to experience losses, and that's okay, because as long as you're managing your risk, you're not taking any huge one trade hits that pull out 3, 4, 5% of your account, then I think you're fine. You also have to consider the psychological aspects of trading as well, and taking a big loss. So if you would have moved the stop to maybe twice the size, or kept moving the stop further and further away from price, well, then the drawdown on your account will increase as well. Then you have like a financial drawdown, but you also have a psychological drawdown, and watching just trades just like really move into drawdown, so you're minus 20, 30%. I mean, that stuff will send you to the toilet constantly, and you don't want to do that. So lose your 1/4% or 0.5% or 1% and move on to the next one. You don't want to be kind of stuck in the past of a bad trade. Bad trades are always going to happen, so you want to know what you're willing to lose before you get into the trade. Here we have this little target. It was, in my book, reached, and here we have the stop here. It was a tiny stop as well. It's like I think 1/4% still, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yeah, you got stopped out. Who cares? Move on to the next trade. And so it's important not to dwell on these losses, because they're going to happen all the time, and that's okay. That's fine. They're allowed to happen all the time. It doesn't matter. Okay, so I think that's what we have there. So let's have a look maybe at I hope that was alright, Philip. If not, shoot us another question in the forum, and I can and have a closer look. But essentially, you have to be rigid with your trading plan and flexible with your expectations. And so, if price got close to the target, then it hit the target. Then don't feel bad about clicking it out. That's okay. Okay, so let's have a look at what's going on. I don't trade cryptocurrencies shorter term, but there's a lot of stuff going on. So let's have a look at some just for fun. Crypto. Let's have a look at the Bitcoin. Ripple. I'm holding a bunch of Ripple. Let's have a look at Bitcoin US dollar. Let's have a look at Ripple. Yes, I've been holding Ripple for about 2 years. I really like the technology behind Ripple, which is why I invested in it. I think it's a really amazing technology. This real-time settlement. I mean, that's incredible. I think the banking industry could certainly learn a lot from that. But if we have a look here, you can see that we have lows, and we had this crazy push higher, to over $3. That was amazing. And then price kind of moved back down to where? To demand. You can see it right there. So what do? You look for the move away, the candle that closed away from the area of accumulation, which you can see here. This is the one here. Then you look back. Are you an accumulation candle? Let's zoom in. Yes, I am. Is this candle within the range of the previous? No, there's nothing really there. And here we have a bunch of accumulation. And this candle here is kind of, it opened below the lows of this area of accumulation. And so this area of accumulation looks like from the highest edge of the highest body, which is probably the blue one here, to the lowest low, which is this one here. So this is what the area would look like. What do? You buy here, stop, target at opposing area of supply. Price poked into it. It jumped up to here. You can see this candle. It's not an accumulation candle. I mean, here we have accumulation, but this is pretty ugly on this time frame. But this candle closed below this one. We have the edge of the sell zone from the high of this candle to here. This is a child, by the way. The parent's up here. Price tested that, and now it came back to here. Now we're accumulating. We're painting white candles. What does that mean? Well, no one really knows. These are pretty volatile, these cryptocurrencies, and so it could go either way. But due to the fact, like fundamentally, that Ripple is signing so many banks, and MoneyGram was just signed, and they have like consortium of like tons and tons of banks. I mean, this is a technology that's just dying to get adopted, and it's moving slowly, but it's moving steadily at the same time. So I have expectations that this is going to go a lot higher eventually. So I mean, I bought maybe 6,000 of these. I mean, when they were like 15 cents each, and I'm going to hold them for it was a 3 to 5 year investment, and I'm about 1.5 years into it. And so I mean, I'm still waiting for this to come to fruition. But the buy zone here, we have opposing supply, so we want price to move through here. Let's go to the weekly and have a look, and you can see kind of these areas here. This is the accumulation. It's tested once. We went a little bit deeper. We found some buyers. Now we're kind of moving sideways here. We have, I mean, there's not a huge range here. There's not a huge range at all. And price is just kind of accumulating to do something, but we don't know what. So there is liquidity that's being exchanged here. There's a lot of buying and selling in here, but we don't know to what side until price pops north. You can see that's happening here. We had this really big push higher. This is the area of demand that originated from this. Okay, and now we're kind of testing this. We tested it quite a few times, once, twice, many times here. Then we had this child that was established. We gapped higher and price popped up, and now we're kind of drifting higher like this. You can see kind of something like that. So we have like kind of this little thing where price is getting squeezed into the corner, and then when the price kind of squeezes like that, we expect something to happen. And normally what happens is you have a rally, you get a squeeze, and normally price continues in the direction of the release below. And so I'm expecting price to pop up and move higher. But there's something going on here as well, and you can see here area of supply. Maybe this is clearer. Yeah, this is fine. So price moved away. We had a pullback signifying the edge of the sell zone. Price left. So you mark this off here. This is the most expensive price, the cheapest price you want to sell at. Where did that line go? Oh, they're pretty ugly. Let me try and change this to a thin one. There we are. Okay, okay, this is the beginning of the sell zone. We see here we have like accumulation. Price tested it, then it cut through it, tested the edge of it, and then it went down. So this is the beginning of the sell zone. This is where price came to pretty much. And we had huge rejection, and price returned to this area of demand here. And now price is looking to maybe move a little bit higher. Fundamentally, it should move high, but we don't really know what's going on. So you can see here that this is what's going on. If we look on the 4-hour chart, what's going on? We have this really nice area here. Okay, this is really interesting because we have all this accumulation. This is nothing. There's not a lot going on here. Then we had this relatively big move. How we had kind of the parent-child, and it popped up. Price tried to get below there before. It didn't happen. The beginning of the buy zone is here. Okay, and then the real demand is down here and extends beyond the lows here. And so that'd be interesting to see if price can move down here. If so, it might be interesting. A time to get involved. With Ripple, we also have stuff like this. So we have, there's no supply, no demand that's been consumed, but we do have a market structure failure, and it originates from kind of something up here, like that. Okay, and so this is a strong move. It causes market structure to break down. But a retreat, a move down to here would certainly attract some people to buy, because you have to think about the crypto space is lots of speculation at the moment. It's really, really hyped, and it was certainly hyped a year and a half ago. And so people are just looking to get on board when price gets low. So if price gets to an area that looks low, and you can see it on the price chart the same way that we've looked at this, I mean, then people are going to be getting on. They're going to really be getting on. If we have a look at like Bitcoin, for example, this is another really good example. Let me clear all these off. Defaults, good. So you have the same thing happening here. Okay, I mean, look at these mental prices. And look at this, okay? So price just flew up. We rallied, accumulated, went to the moon, hit the stars, bounced off, came all the way back down to where? To demand, to monthly demand. And people think, oh, what price is Bitcoin going to return to? And it's not rocket science, man. It's not rocket science. It returns to where there are clear signs that people are willing to buy. It went way too high. There's a lot of people cashing out. A lot of people a little bit apprehensive about buying because it's so high. But you look on the price chart and you can see that it returned back to an area of demand. The software told us about this months and months and months ago. A year, I mean, let's see. This area here was established. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It was here. So we had a year and 2 months. Sorry, we had 6 months to consider taking this trade. Okay, price came down, now it went north again. So this is a really good place to reestablish long positions on Bitcoin. And if you have a look here, I mean, what do you see? Well, you see this area here. We had this area of demand. Price has tested it many, many times. It was this area of supply that took it out. But look at it, it's ugly. What does that tell us? That tells us there's no interest in in selling. Price dumped below. We started to accumulate orders to move price higher. We rallied, accumulated, rallied. Price gapped up and through this mess. And now we're just gapping. You can see this is like pretty thin market. You can see here. But price is moving higher. So what do? Well, you don't buy and you don't sell. You wait until price does what? Returns to a price, a fair price that people are willing to pay. And you can see that around here, like this area here and this area down here. I mean, these are really interesting areas to try and buy at. You could also try to buy here, but this is a little bit unclear. Let's go to the daily chart and have a look. We had this area of weekly supply, which is taken out. What area took it out was something in here. Okay, so this is a really interesting area to start to reaccumulate long positions. Will price come back down there? It will. It has to. It has to move lower to find buyers, and it has to move higher to find sellers. So it will have to move low to attract people here. There are a lot of like kind of speculators that just start buying. Oh, it's high. It's really good. Buy, 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 buy. And the smart money, they're selling to them because they're cashing out. So just focus on the price. Look at a price chart, especially for a commodity like this, and say, wow, we really want to get into this position. And that good price is down here. Really nice area here. You could start to buy here and cascade orders all the way down through this area of monthly demand. Okay, so that looks pretty interesting. Cool. Let's look at something else. Let's look at the Euro USD. Okay, so what do we have here? We look at the monthly chart first. You can see that we have this area of monthly supply has been tested. We formed a child. Now we move below. Now price is kind of sitting on here. You can see accumulation, drop, and then a fast move up. I mean, I feel as if price will kind of move up into here and then move down back to here, or back down to here. But if you see what's going on, what day is it today? Yeah, and so we can see like that this candle is looking pretty strong. So if you look at the weekly chart, you can see the price here went up, it went down, and then it went up again immediately, and we closed above these highs. And so it looks pretty strong. So we can expect maybe the price is going to drift a little bit higher, as you can see here. On the daily chart, we're poking into this daily supply. And I don't like that it's kind of sitting there and kind of accumulating on it. That kind of makes me feel as if it's going to pop up and continue moving higher. And there's nothing really here. There's no supply until we kind of move up into this area here. The beginning of the sell zone is essentially like where we have some pullbacks. And this is not interesting to us because it's just, I mean, when price does this, we're consuming liquidity. And so there's nothing either up here or below for a while, so it could go either way. So the fundamentals are going to be driving this, but you can see the beginning of the sell zone for this move here. The origin of the move is here. It's moving down, and there's a lot of efficient trading. Okay, like this. And so the beginning of the sell zone is not until here, until the 118.53. Which brings our attention to this area of weekly supply here. So I'll be looking to short once price comes up here, and I'll be looking to buy once price comes to the lows here, which it already did. And that's kind of what we have to work with. Price is already tested here, and so maybe it's a good time to start to accumulate some short-term long positions and ride price through this, because there's nothing here to stop price from moving higher. The robot kind of found this and said this is a 4-hour area, and it marked this off. Price went up. It came about 3/4 of the way down to this area, to this accumulation candle, and it didn't move any lower. So fingers crossed it finds enough sellers here to drive price a little bit lower. I think I'll probably be closing this position off early, but maybe we'll come back down to this base here. You know, price kind of had a low, a high, higher low, and a higher high. And this move that took out these highs here originated from this area here, and the target is just above that. Okay, so I'm hoping that we'll have a look. But if not, I take 1/4% of a loss, and I don't really care. Okay, so I'm not moving my stop up here. Oh, please hit my target. I don't care. But anyways, if this doesn't hold and it's not looking very promising, this would be like the first loss for about 3 months on this account, which is pretty awesome. Yeah, and then we have another trade. And by the way, have a look here, we're accumulating swap. So we can see that, okay, just a quick comment on this trade. This is a daily supply. So this area here, but a bit more discretion, and I shouldn't have taken this trade. Why? Because the beginning of the sell zone is if you look at like the release, the beginning of the sell zone is here. Here's the accumulation candle, here's the candle away. So here's the beginning of where we should have been looking to sell, and it's just here, and this is where price is kind of sitting at the moment. And so this isn't a good area. Why? Because price has already traded at this area previously. So a bit of discretion would have saved me a couple of bucks. Yeah, so that's what we have there. Let's have a look at this Hong Kong one here. Okay, this is pretty cool here because we had these. We have the peg that was maintained where I was advocating shorting up here, and we took some shorts, but we closed them off because the swap was horrible. Sorry, swap short, $31 per standard lot. That kind of sucks. That's expensive, and so I kind of pulled that out, and then it went lower. But that's kind of a bum when they do that. But they do that also to prevent speculation. They don't want people to speculate short this because they have to maintain their peg. On the weekly chart, we had this area of demand. The robot saw this accumulation candle here, the close above, and it said, I want to buy there. So price went into that area, moved through it, moved pretty low into this weekly demand, which has almost been completely removed, and then it moved higher. The better option would have been to trade down here, because here we have the release, pull back, the beginning of the buy zone was established, and so this would be a really interesting area to buy here. But so we'll see what happens early next week. Maybe I'll pull this off. We'll have to wait and see. And on the daily chart, you can see that we're finding some attracting some buying here, just a little bit, not a lot. And then if you have a look here, you can see that we have a nice area here, but this is a reaction to some demand. The beginning of the sell zone is down here, so if you can see it just here, we mark off from the low to here. It's the beginning of the buy zone. Price tested it once, and this is kind of a second time. It went pretty deeply into it, 3/4 of the way through, and let's see if we attracted enough buyers to drive this a little bit higher. Who knows? And so now you can see that we are kind of like we're forming some areas of accumulation. We have some demand that's currently been tested at 4 hours, so let's see if we can drive price higher, at least up into this area here, or kind of hereish where we had this market structure failure, which originates from this daily area of supply that you can see. Sorry, 4 hours supply, which you can see here. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. It's crazy. The air in Denmark is so dry, and in Bali, like it's such moisture in the air, such humidity, and it's really nice, and on the skin and in my nose, and my body feels really nice in Bali, and I come here and everything dries up. It's crazy stuff. So like sniffling like a madman. But yeah, that's what we have there. Let's have a look at the pound. What's the pound doing? Well, the pound is, let's go to the monthly. I have no more data, this is all I have. So the pound is moving into this. Here we have the candle that left the accumulation. It starts there and it goes to here. There's the beginning of the buy zone. Got close to it. Now we have another attempt at moving into it. Maybe if we can kind of attract some sellers there to have a poke into here and move away from there. So what's the price doing? Let's have a look on the weekly. We have kind of like this really ugly flow where we have a high, a high, a high, a low, a low, a low. So price is kind of like just all over the place at the moment. So there's no real directional bias at the moment. But what we can see is that we had this high and this high area there, and the area of demand that took that higher originates from, let's have a look. Okay, here we have this candle close outside of the range of this one. Accumulation, you in the range of the previous, yes. You in the range of the previous, yes, yes. So we have all of these, but it stops here because this candle's body is not within the range of the previous. So we can go from here to here. And we had, this would be an okay area, I think. And then this candle kind of poked kind of a little bit into it, so we could remove that, move it a little bit lower. But if you look at this candle, it kind of moved all the way through it. And so that makes me think that we're going to have to look a bit lower for real buyers. Let's start off at the lows here and remove this. And we're going to scroll back a little. And you can see here, we have still pretty messy here as well. We had lows and another low, then a higher low, and then price rallied, accumulated, then rallied. So we could kind of go from here to here. But I don't like all that. I'd move it even lower. I just go from the absolute lows to here, but it's already gone. Can you see there's nothing that you can kind of put a hook on? And so there's nothing really to do here. It's difficult when you see this. Price is moving sideways, and you have a low, and then you have like an equal low almost, and then price leaves and it comes back and tests it. So it's really not clear, and so there's not a lot of clarity in here, as you can see. And we do have this, so I'll just look to buy the pound much lower or sell the pound much higher. And there's not, if you look on this price structure, so from here and the move down to here, which is a low, in the beginning of the sell zone we have some like pullbacks. We had one here, which tested this area of supply. So price accumulated to move price lower. We tested it, and then this is where we move, and then we're kind of coming back to it. So if we mark that off, I mean, this looks like an interesting place to sell, but when you look at that, it looks terrible. It looks terrible. I wouldn't be comfortable selling into that at all, but I'd be very comfortable selling here. I like that a lot better. So the 13900 area. The robot wants to have a stab here, and this might be fine. We do have some nested areas up here, but I don't like, again, as we saw below price, how we had this area was established and then price came away, then moved almost all the way through it and then left. That is not good, or as they say in Indonesian, tidak bagus, not great. Yeah, so I don't really like that much, but the robot wants to have a stab, so I'll let it do that. Also, like with the robot project, you can't fiddle too much. I mean, I come in and I think, yeah, well, I don't like what the robot's done. If I went in there and intervened all the time, then I wouldn't really have like a sample size of the trades. And if you look at the trades that it's done on this account, I mean, they're all fine. You know, they're all fine. It's because I haven't fiddled. And if you fiddle, then you don't get data that you can actually use. You can see where I fiddle. I close this one off early and this one off early, and all the ones are just like ones that I close off early. You can leave it, target. You know, you have to leave them alone, otherwise. There's another one I closed off. This one hit the target, so you have to kind of leave stuff alone. Otherwise, you interfering with the statistics, and that kind of really skews things a little bit. And so I just have to leave it and let it, even though it's kind of difficult sometimes, because like my discretion tells me that I'd want to do something different. You have to leave it, otherwise you completely ruin the results. And then you have no sample size of the algo. You can't assess if it's doing good or bad. Hiccups. Yeah, so that's what we're doing there. So let's wait and see. Let's have a look here. Weekly, monthly, weekly, daily. Let me default. I'll do one more pair, and then I'll go for a bicycle ride with my son. So cool. So let's have a look at maybe the dollar Japanese yen. So if we have a look at the dollar Japanese yen, what's going on? Well, we had a lot of buying here, from this area here, which is just above this monthly demand. So this is the beginning of the buy zone. It got tested once, and look at the rejection. So if price moves below this line, I reckon that we're going to see some buyers get involved there as well. Keep in mind as well that interest rates will likely be cut a couple of times this year, which will have a negative impact on the American dollar in relation to all the other currencies that it's traded against. So keep that in mind. So fundamentally, it's good to have an idea about what the central banks are doing in relation to interest rates, because this is essentially what's moving these these currencies. So if we have a look at the weekly, you can see the beginning of those buy zones. We have it here. This was the beginning of the buy zone. Price came, we moved through it, and then it moved up to opposing supply, and now it's kind of figuring out what it wants to do. So in this situation, we have supply above price and demand below. I wouldn't mess around in the middle. So if you look at all this stuff in here, I wouldn't be doing anything in the middle there. I would be identifying the lows of the range, which are here. This is the low. And I'll be looking to buy once price comes in here, and looking to sell from the highs of the highs here, which is about where this is. So this is where we should be selling, in here. And this is where we should be buying, in here. Okay? And all this stuff in the middle is just higher risk. You can certainly trade, let's say the price comes down here, pokes into here, then you can like buy patterns, continuation patterns, mark those off and trade those in anticipation that price moves higher to opposing supply, which is going to be the major stuff. But you don't want to be just like getting in the middle here, because this is pretty choppy. It could go either way in the middle. The thick liquidity for short positions is here, and for long positions is down here. This is the path of least resistance in the middle. The path is gonna move up and down much easier in the middle than it is in the top. It's gonna move down from here, and it's gonna move up from here. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, I'm gonna leave it at that. Turn this off. I gotta get a new pair of headphones. I have the headphones that I'm currently using. They're a few years old, and the wire is broken and taped all over the place. I'll take a picture and send it in the form so you can see how pathetic these headphones are. So I got to get a new pair. My Sennheisers, the USB headphones, and I really like them, so I'll see if I can get a similar pair, but the wires are just rubbish. They really fall to pieces. Matter of fact, just for fun, I'll take a picture and I'll send it so you can see what it looks like. But yeah, I mean, I wish you all a really good holiday. If there are any other requests for a symposium, which I'll do again in some days, let me know, and I'll be absolutely thrilled to have a look at what you're saying, and give you some feedback. And if there's a trade you're looking at, or you're in, and you want to discuss it, just fire it off in the forum. We can discuss it, or I can cover it in the symposium. But thanks so much for watching. Have any feedback, please let me know. Otherwise, have a lovely weekend. I think it's Sunday today. Let's have a look. Maybe Sunday-ish. Sunday, yeah. Yeah. So have a lovely summer holiday. Speak to you soon.